You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio, the paranormal and strange. We are coming to you live on WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. I'm your host, Roger Belt, and my partner, Hank Stratton over there. Say hello, Santa Claus.
Yo ho ho, and a bottle of, ho ho ho. When do you get off calling me Santa? Come on. Just because my beard's white.
All you need's a coat, man.
Well, I've got one. You know.
Okay. A red one with white lining?
Yes, I do.
Oh, good deal. Hey, folks, we got a great show for you tonight. We got Miss Anita Jo in Tenzio. Am I saying that right? In Tenzio?
That's correct, yes.
And her son, Chris, and they're going to give us the lowdown on the spooks over there. So, without further ado, welcome aboard, Anita, Chris.
Thanks so much. Thanks. Glad to be on the show tonight.
Well, we're glad to have y'all.
Don't forget, we're going to be talking about her book about
exactly.
The State of War,
That's what I was fixing to say. We're going to be talking about things that happened in the house that led up to the writing of the book, The State of Horror. And I was going to ask you, this is just something I was puzzling over before when we were backstage there, I guess. Had y'all ever experienced anything before this house, or was this like the first time?
Well, for me, Roger, the house was really my first introduction to really seeing, any type of paranormal activity. I had seen things on television, of course, in movies, but that was my first experience, and also Chris I think can agree with me as far as seeing, the activity in front of your eyes. That was pretty incredible. We were almost like in shock the first time it happened, and almost didn't believe that it had been a series of these paranormal and poltergeist events that even happened that day. And we're left scratching our heads at the end of the day, saying, "Did we just see that? Did that really happen?" But before that, now that we've had time since the book's was written, it's been published, and now we're writing the sequel, we've had time to really step back and see why maybe this all happened and why it seemed to come to us. And now I think in the long run, and the more we do investigation and study up on what we had actually experienced and what's the general consensus of the paranormal community, like what things we had actually confronted, we see now that we did have in the background maybe some experiences with the paranormal, but pretty much dismissed them or did not, or maybe ignored them. So I don't know. I don't know, Chris. What did you seem to have something when you were younger that he explained to me?
Well, it was something that we found out later on, looking through past journals or little writings that I had done when I was a kid, from either doing it from school or just we were supposed to keep a journal from where we were doing in maybe going back as far as preschool or elementary school, that there were some things relating to possibly me seeing things that weren't normal in a sense. So we're trying to go back as far as we can to see if there was anything that happened before we got to the house, but it's a lot of things have happened really quite a bit after the house. It's kind of like it's opened up a whole new door ever since that we had this experience happen to us.
So do they did they follow you like during the time you were cleaning? I think I read something about that. Uh, like when you would leave the house to go to where you were staying before, you moved there. Did they follow you like from the house to where you were living at?
Well, we had actually at the beginning we were okay, but then we noticed. I think there's particular one incident that we wrote in the book. It happened in I guess it was in June, Chris. I think we had actually come back that evening, and we were experiencing a really severe thunderstorm here, and we noticed. I had heard some noise in my art studio, and when we went to look, we saw it had been a box with a lady's pair of gloves in it, and I had remembered bringing some of these things home because we were cleaning out so much stuff from my friend's house, and his mom had left all her clothing, and they hadn't gotten rid of anything, and that was strange, seeing this box of gloves in the middle of my studio, and then as the evening proceeded, my son, he's talking to me, and we're in the kitchen, and I was mixing up a container of iced tea, and one of the lids to the plastic container just flew right out of the kitchen sink and went through our dining room and the living room, and we were really stunned because we had never had anything we felt that was following us home, but we were really scared at that point, and all I just remember saying was, just get out of my house, go back to that other place. I don't want you here, moving things or throwing things around. And then things seemed to calm down. So that was the first time, Roger, that I actually do remember something had followed us back, but then it just all calmed down, and we didn't have any other incidents after that for quite a while.
We've been noticing that we're having some hiccups here in the chat room. You were on Noreen's show?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Anything strange happened there?
Oh yeah. It was unbelievable. I was on her show on the 18th of May, and we did a live Skype show, and I was right in my home studio here, and then of course she was doing her broadcast from California, and during the 52-minute show, Hank, we were noticing that in the chat room and through the feed, people were hearing voices and other types of EVP activity. That's what we found out now that we can call it. But her producer was quite shocked because he said, we've never had interference when we've had a guest on the show. And some people commented, they said, what's wrong with your audio, the audio feed? And Noreen kept trying to adjust. She said, there's nothing wrong. She said, when Nita's talking, something is talking over her. And that was very glitchy. We had interference, and then we had one of the listeners of her show then sent us a transcript with her audio equipment that she was able to hear through her earphones, and she forwarded it to Noreen, but things were actually happening during the feed that people were saying, what's going on? Did you just hear that? And later on, it was this list of really incredible EVPs, things, they're calling me names because we had shown some things that we had documented that was from the book and some other things that had happened since, and we were showing them right on air. Apparently the entities or spirits didn't like that I was showing this, and she said, this is crazy. They're even affecting my microphone, and I'm hearing taps on the audio feed. And then later the next day, my son, he wasn't here that night when I was doing the Skype. I said to him, do you think you can listen to this and see what you could hear compared to what these other people did? And he was able to write down about 70 EVPs that he caught in the 52-minute broadcast, and he did not know what the other girl had written down and what had been sent to me. And then when we compared, he said, well, look, Mom, this is what I wrote. And he was drained after listening to this. It was really horrible. And I think Cindy also at one point emailed me and messaged me that she was getting a headache from listening to these really horrific things that were being said. And when I compared what this other girl had written down and sent to Noreen, and then what my son wrote, some of the same sentences, they were exactly the same thing. So we know that something was being said, and more than one person heard the same exact thing. So really, I mean, that was just unbelievable.
There was at least 2 a minute things were happening with the EVPs.
Yeah.
On the broadcast, from what I could remember, from what I heard.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you also, after your friend passed, did you ever feel like he was there in the house with y'all, or did he just move on peacefully and you were left with whatever was there?
Well, he definitely, we realized it must have been him along with other maybe family members. It didn't take long to understand that he was desperately trying to contact us. And it had started in his bedroom one day when we were cleaning out a lot of things. He was an anthropologist and had collected for like 30 years I knew him. He traveled all around the world and just collected so many things. But his room was like a mini museum, and we had been in the process of sorting things and packing things up because he left me so many of these objects compared even what he had left to other people. And when we were in that one part in the bedroom, we had put some things away. We were outside the room into the next bedroom and heard a horrific crash. And all of a sudden, my son said to me, he goes, what was that? Did it sound like the whole bookcase came down? Well, we rushed back in and saw that these Tupperware bins that had been stacked against the back wall, and they were filled with American Indian artifacts, they had been violently thrown from the wall side into the middle of the room and spilling the contents of all these plastic bins all in the room. And we just looked at each other, and I then called out to my friend and said, look, if it's you, I'm sorry. Do you know that you passed away? I said, I'm tasked now to get rid of everything in the house and to sell the house, like you said in the will. So, I don't know what else to do. Like, I was concerned that he didn't realize he had passed. And it was strange because we had talked long before that when his mother had passed, and he had said to me, if anything ever happened to me, Anita, you promise that you won't be afraid if I try to come back and contact you. And I just really pass it off. I said, look, you're so young. I mean, we've got so many years ahead of us. Don't even talk like that. It's so morbid. But he just wanted me to promise him that if something happened, I wouldn't be afraid if he tried to come back. And then he made it be known through other incidents, Roger, that it distinctly was him, because when I would ask, like, can you let me know it's you, there would be something thrown, and when I would pick it up, I knew that he had directly given me that object because he would know it was him, because only he and I would know the purpose or the significance of that, and I knew that it had to be him. So that was really the most, I think, incredible aspect of the intelligent haunting, going on. And Chris, your experience, like you thought you had, your friend Danny said he saw our friend. Why don't you explain that to Roger? Just mention him because you were close with Danny there.
Yeah, that he was the only person to that point that was able to see a full body apparition in the basement. And when he described what he had seen, he described my mom's friend pretty much to a T, like from the way he dressed, the mannerism that he just kind of walked by the bottom of the stairs. And at that point, Danny was really freaked out, and he kind of just he headed for the hills out the door after he saw what he saw, and I followed him out and was just trying to calm him down. He's like, look, I don't know if I can continue on helping you guys out. He's like, I'll do the best I can, but that was just, I think it was a little too much for him at that point, because the whole time we were there, we didn't physically see any apparition, but we had all kinds of other activity that went on. But he was freaked out at that point.
Anita, and Chris, whoever can answer me, what was your friend collecting? I mean, we've watched, not making any plugs here, John Zaffis, the Haunted Collector, and we've heard about the possessed dolls and things like that. What was he collecting, and what was the spirit connections?
Well, I'll tell you, it's everything you can imagine and anything you can imagine, because being an anthropologist, this man was a brilliant lecturer. He was a writer, and he was a teacher, and he just collected he did 40 lectures on different subjects of cultural anthropology, and he had examples from each one of those 40 lectures. That's what he willed to me. We're talking about he was a Mayan Indian expert in the social structure of the ancient Mayan Indians. He had been in South America about 15 times. He had Native American, which he had been his thesis when he did his master's degree out west. He was scheduled to go to Guatemala for to do a dig down there. But then at the time in the early 80s, there was a lot of guerrilla warfare going on, and they could not guarantee his safety and the people from the college, from the institute. So then he wound up being in the Southwest, and then dug at a old mining and ghost town, and it turned out that they hit the Indian burial ground underneath that. So he was quite thrilled that was really happy, because he was not happy that he couldn't get to Guatemala. So that appeased him. But he was Greek, Roman, Egyptian, things that he collected, things from Polynesia, and then it was just all his background. He was German, and he was very proud of his German heritage. So it was so many things of German souvenirs, German porcelain and artifacts and dolls and things like that. But I actually have a mummy doll that was in a collection of things that he had left me from South America, and the doll itself was made in the 1950s from natural materials and from and it's stuffed and embroidered, but the cloth itself that it's wrapped in and the clothing is made out of came from an actual mummy wrapping from 650 years ago. Because I looked this up because someone said to me, have they ever sold on auction? I said, well, he bought this in the 70s before the law was enacted that you can't export or buy these things anymore because of the antiquity associated with these dolls. And these dolls were actually replicas of what had been found in Peruvian tombs. So when he bought this was as close as he can get and not get in any kind of trouble with saying that I'm taking antiquity, back to the United States. But now they've since stopped making these. They haven't made these in like 50 years. But this doll itself has high readings. When we've had an investigative team here and put a meter next to it, it fluctuates with some high readings. But that's not really our source of what we've had as far as a haunting. There's been so many things like a potpourri or a smorgasbord, I call it, of so many cultures and so many things tied together of what he collected. I'll tell you, you could take your pick, Hank. At this point, you could say, well, what isn't haunted, over here. So it's really unique.
Given what you've explained, that explains a lot of what's going on. Roger?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you if he had brought anything from the Mayan pyramids and temples. Did he have anything like that in the house?
He had recreations of like some Mayan pieces. I know that they weren't really authentic pieces because he had things labeled, and I knew that you just can't just dig these things up and take them with you. But he had just like silver pieces that were Mayan plaques that were representative of Mayan petroglyphs and the different writing of the Mayan Indians. But what's really, I think, is more of his Peruvian connection. He was in Peru, and we've seen that there's been something that was really quite extraordinary that he had picked up in Peru and brought it back. And we are now in the process of trying to isolate to find out what this thing really is. It seems to be a powerful piece that he brought back, and we want to see if we can find some kind of closure and get this thing either taken care of, seal it in a box, but we're actually going to have someone come in a couple weeks who's going to be here all day, and we're going to see if we can sort of zero in on this in my basement. I have a lot of his artifacts and things in my basement, and that's been a real hot spot for the paranormal activity. But it's all now throughout my house. It started maybe with that, just like my friend's house. It started in his basement, and then things carried all upstairs and through all the rooms, and even happened outside that we had activity. And same thing with my house, that we've had it where it was the basement. It traveled up through the rooms. We've had some activity outside. We've captured some things outside. Some things appeared on, we did a book trailer 2 years ago, and when the crew was here, friends of ours that actually did the video for us, we actually captured a shadow man on our front door. So when people see the video and they open the door, right off to the right-hand side, there's this figure with a brimmed hat. And what happened is we realize now through our research who this person could possibly be, and it's directly related not to my friend, but actually what our property, which goes back from the 1800s, that our place might have been a conduit and might have had its own maybe dormant sort of paranormal activity, or just the spirits were dormant. And when we brought all the things from my friend's house, innocently not knowing that these things could be attached, and then bring it into my house, it seemed to activate and really stirred up a lot of portals and activity. And my son can verify in his bedroom is one of the real hot spots up in his bedroom. How about that, Chris?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun sleeping up there at night.
Yeah, it's fun up there.
Never know what you're going to see, when you wake up during the middle of the night or early in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's always something going on here. It keeps it quite interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah.
To say the least.
I have a question from one of our members in the chat, Cheryl. She asked, anything from the Anasazi?
No, not from Anastasia. I don't believe. It's probably near. I think it might be near, maybe not far from Machu Picchu, possibly, and possibly near Cusco, the capital of Peru. He was involved in the area in the Yucatan, and I was really surprised when I did find things from Peru, because he never really talked about that. He was purposely in Mexico and in the Yucatan, but we do have American Indian some artifacts that are from the Plains Indians, but I'm not too aware of anything from like the Nazca or anything like that, from that area.
Nothing from the Southwest.
Well, there is from the Southwest, definitely from the American Southwest. We have some, moccasins, beat-up moccasins, and he collected implements, like he's got a war club, but I don't think some of these are actual, maybe of great antiquity. They might be replicas, but they're very good replicas done by artists of the Southwest. But I know the Indian moccasins are of a child's moccasins, which are pretty old, and a cradle board and some things like that. Some of the other things, just textiles, dolls. We do have some meter goes high next to. We have several spear points and some pottery that he had collected, and might have, we're not really sure where some of these came from. He doesn't have everything labeled, but we've got some high readings near one of these obsidian points, which is pretty unique.
After all the experiences that y'all have been through there, did you ever think of maybe paranormal investigating on your own?
We've been asked. We've been doing so much of just our own investigation here with our house, and doing research, which is taking a lot of the time, and it's just I've actually gone on one. Went with one group down to our Fort Mifflin here outside of Philadelphia, and that was I really enjoyed that because of the historical significance, and actually got to one of the old tunnels that actually was on another TV show. They showed after when they found this tunnel, and that was just really surprising to see, this buried underneath. That, for years no one knew it was there. But I'll tell you, I'm not really ready to volunteer to go.
I don't think you want to bring anything else home with you either.
Yeah, don't bring anything else home, with us, because we've got our own stuff. We've got our own paranormal investigating things going on all the time here. So it's, I'll tell you, we've got our hands full. So. Did
you ever think of maybe doing like all these other big time places like Rolling Hills and Trans-Allegheny, and just opening up the door saying, "Come on in"?
No, because I'll tell you, my home, like I have, this has been like something almost in a reluctant type of thing that we've been involved in. I mean, we never expected that we were going to get a haunting at my friend's house, and then when it did happen, we kept saying, "Why us? Why us?" Like we don't really go. We've enjoyed watching the shows, and of course, you're just, you're a fan of the show, but I just never thought we would be involved in it into such an extreme condition. I mean, poltergeist, seeing shadow people, having things fall from the ceiling on top of your head. Like I had a crystal pendant just came out of nowhere from the ceiling and just dropped down, missed my head on my lap. We had coins being just thrown across rooms and any kind of thing you can imagine, pens, pencils. It just got to be funny at the beginning. We were really just so intrigued and saying, like, why these things? And then it got more and more sinister as we were collecting all these things and trying to pack them away and get them dispersed. More things were happening at my friend's house, and we were actually attacked. My son, he was attacked. I was attacked first. I was thrown to the ground outside of the house near his garden house in July, and then about a month later, Christopher, maybe you could tell him, Chris, he just got the wind knocked out, and he was just, I think what you said, they felt like somebody had grabbed you by the ankles, honey?
Yeah, it's kind of like how you get pushed down from behind, get the wind knocked out of you, and you get thrown over, the ottoman or whatever that was. You got thrown over to the ground, and you just complete wind knocked out of you where you can't even move. You're just completely still on the ground, and you have to just kind of get yourself together and see if you can move. I mean, I didn't know if I'd even had broken something or hurt something even further. I mean, I didn't know if I had to go to the hospital that day, but we were able to just kind of, take it for what it was and try to get ourselves together. And I think we left after that.
Yeah, we didn't stay.
We left the house after that had happened. But, I mean, the example for being here, I mean, I don't know if we would want, people to, so to speak, either like take a tour or kind of do a ghost hunt because it might get hurt. You don't know what might come flying through the air, whether it be something real lightweight or something even heavy, because it's been all kinds of different things that were thrown at us over there and over here. So I mean, you could if you really wanted to, but I mean, I think people would have to sign a waiver or something, unless if they want to go home and either maybe bring something home with them or get knocked out while they're here. I don't know if we'd want to explore that direction quite yet.
Well, we've been scratched. I mean, I've been scratched, and Chris has, and even his wife. And so we worry about that. But we've also, investigators were here, Hank and Roger, several years ago, and they have come intermittently. But the last really serious investigation, when they were here, they had set up a camera in our hallway and had about 2 hours of tape running. When the time came for them to then see what they had captured, the camera, which was an expensive piece of equipment, was completely fried. He said the camera's completely ruined. It can't even be fixed. And he said, I guess they don't want us to capture anything on film. But also one of the mediums, a friend of ours who actually did the foreword to my book, Laurie Hall, she had experience down in the basement. I showed her downstairs, and she and her other investigative member wanted to, see if they could do some EVPs, see if they could make contact. And I was down there for a few minutes, and she gave me a warning. She said, Anita, I want you to go upstairs right now. And I just looked at her. I go, why? She goes, don't argue. She said, just go upstairs. She was really fearing for my life, that she said something very dark and sinister. She could feel that it said to her, I'm going to hurt Anita. So she said she was being very limited with her questions to ask who exactly was inhabiting the basement, but she did feel like she had been tried to be attacked, tried to be strangled, and she then came upstairs about 15 minutes later and looked really shaken, and she said, I feel really sick. She said, you have no idea what this thing was trying to get at me. She said, I used my protective, prayers, but she said, this thing is really dark, sinister, and has really designs on you. She said he loves that, that you're in the house here, but he's down in the basement, and he's, she called it a he, but it felt like a masculine presence. But she said, yeah, he's just really comfortable in the basement, and you're there because you've been through this. And she said, but she was really concerned for our safety, and I'll tell you, the groups that come, like we've had them back. We've only had one particular group because we didn't want to bring too many other people in, and they have seen a change in the atmosphere, but the basement tends to be a really sore point here, that we've gotten. People have just gone down there and they said, I don't want to stay down here. This is really creeping me out. And some other people saying that they felt like they got scratched on the neck. And I'm not surprised, because of what the past activity has been.
Now, that brings me now 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
What about the scratch?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of scratch it was? And second,
Mm-hmm.
actually, that would be second. The first question was, what did anybody ask for permission to do any kind of recording? That's I haven't experienced it myself, but I have heard that can make a big difference.
Well, I think the fellow that she had doing the recording, first he was downstairs, and then he came up here and he had set up the camera. I think he did say, we would like you to talk to us because if we can help you. And from what we understand on that, Hank, it was like, I don't want to be recorded. If you record me, I'm going to hurt you people. Like, I want you not to ask me questions. And then, of course, when he put the recorder and the camera up in our upstairs hallway here on the first floor, it was like, well, I told you I didn't want to be recorded. And then by destroying the camera, this fellow's never come back because he said he was just so upset about how that all went about because he figured he had maybe was getting some really good evidence. And then that was destroyed completely. And I just said, well, better that it's the camera than you got hurt, that at this point. And then the second point to the other question is the scratches have occurred. I've been in my upstairs bathroom in the shower, and you feel all of a sudden it feels like somebody has gotten a hot poker or a knife blade and actually went right across my chest. It was about 3 inches long, and it drew blood, and it was a searing internal pain. It wasn't like an outside thing, but actually felt like inside. And I didn't know what it was. I quickly got out of the shower, and then I could see that I got scratched. And then, but other times we've gotten scratched, and we don't know it until we see it right on the arm or the ankle. And that's really, that just shows that that's something that is more of a dark nature and not a benevolent
You've gotten
nature.
scratched quite a few times.
Yeah.
Quite more than one time.
Oh yeah.
There's been probably about a half a dozen incidences so far,
Yeah.
I would think.
Well, I just got scratched on last Monday night, right on the right side of my face. And my son, we were having dinner. I was over my parents' house, which is 3 blocks away, and talking about bringing things with you. Might have been something attached to me, and what it was, I was on the phone with someone, and we happened to mention the book, and they were interested in finding out how could they, where could they purchase it. And as I'm talking about the book, my son says to me, he said, "Oh my God," he said, "Look what's happening," and I could feel the scratch was going across my face, and he could see it developing. And I quickly got off the phone. I wasn't going to talk about it anymore, but it took about 4 days for it to heal up. It was
a deep scratch.
Yeah, it was a deep scratch, but the one that was across my chest took 2 weeks for that to heal up. It was pretty deep, and it wasn't me like say, oh, you had a sponge or a washcloth made there with a piece of grit on it. No, this was looked like like somebody's like either a fingernail or a knife blade that had been drawn across. And I've gotten scratched on the bottom of my legs, on the arm, and as I said, this is the first time on my face. And it's to me, it's like the more that we're getting to the head about solving this mystery, about the house of my friend, what his family was involved in, that stretches 70 years ago, and now because we talk about we're writing the sequel, we feel that they know that their number is up, and that we're going to expose this, that what really happened, and I think that's possibly I'm they're intimidating me, but I'm not backing down. I mean, this is my home, and I know what I need to do, and they need to leave themselves. So that's why in about 2 weeks we're having a cleansing and maybe an exorcism of the ground on my house and see what we can really drive out of here once and for all, because I can't go living like this, I don't want to have a future where I have to turn around and, look behind me and see what's going on. That's a hell of a way to live, at this point.
What I'm getting at, hold on just a minute, Roger, please. What I'm getting at was you're getting single scratches at a time, not the triple scratches.
Well,
Heather got the triple scratch.
Yeah, your wife got the triple scratch.
You just got single.
Yeah, I got
scratches.
single. Yeah.
Okay, you're dealing with something very nasty.
Yeah, well, we've actually seen, we just got new handprints. We get fingerprints on mirrors, and we've gotten it on our glass coffee table. And that was a lot of that was kind of wiped clean last year when we had this man come up, and he did the cleansing ritual. But now it seems like it's come back, and he knew it wasn't going to maybe last. He really needed to do a full blown, be here for all day and really get this done once and for all. But the fingerprints, which are very elongated, look very skeletal, look like there's long fingernails, that appeared in my upstairs bathroom mirror about 2 weeks ago. So we know that something has really been elevated and really getting revved up. It seems we almost can see more and more things are happening. So it's crazy.
In the chat room here, Dita was asking, before your friend passed away, did he experience anything in the home?
Nothing anything like what we did. I just remember him one time mentioning to me after the death of his mother. He was very close to her, took care of her last year of her life while she was very sick. He had said to me he thought his mother was around, that he was getting maybe some signals or some sensing that she was there. And but he wasn't afraid or anything. He was almost comforted knowing that maybe she was looking out for him. And he did mention that to me one time. But at that years ago in 2001, I mean, that was like the furthest thing from my mind is that do ghost investigation or study that. And when he mentioned it to me, I just said, well, if that is the case, you were really good to her. You took care of her, and she's probably coming back maybe to say thank you or to let you know that she's there to comfort you, because he was all alone. His father had died about 8 years before that, and then when his mother passed, then he was alone. But now we realize there was other things probably going on that he didn't want people to maybe know, that he was almost secretive about how he had his things packed away and secured. And we're just wondering now that he might have known, he might have collected some things that he did not know what he had even bought or collected, and then was actually suffering the consequences from that type of thing. So that's pretty much what I got from that, from just figuring this out, in this past 5 years.
Well, like if he had everything packed away a certain way, maybe he did know there were attachments, and maybe he had them packed in a way to prevent, I guess, them from, causing any harm or whatever.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, that's a good point. Things were sealed in Tupperware bins. There was boxes. There was all kinds of things. It was just very, it was just so tedious because we didn't have any kind of manifest or a log of where anything was. So we just had to we considered our own archaeological dig through his house, because they were hoarders. His whole family was. So we went through 50 years of hoarding in 10 months at the house, and we never knew what box, when we were opening it, what we were going to see inside. Nothing was labeled. Only some of his other artifacts that he had for his cultural things, and when he did his lectures, I knew more about those. But I was just so surprised some of the things I was discovering, and really the depth and breadth of his collection. I had no idea he had collected so much. I mean, I knew he was a collector, but nothing, like what he had stashed away in closets and, in bins, and in the basement was huge, and from the floor to the ceiling, just stacked. It took us, as I said, 10 months, 40 hours a week to clean out the house, ready for sale. And the house was gutted by contractors and then resold. So in a way, we were glad that they did that, because we haven't heard anything since then, since the house was sold, or, that there's any problems at the house. But and my son said, yeah, because everything's at our house now. So it's like... Yeah,
the smorgasbord's here.
Yeah, the smorgasbord of spirits. So...
Wow. Yeah. And you got to think about it too. He had things from all different parts of the world. So there were probably spirits attached from all different parts of the world. So, I mean, that's, good Lord, what's the word I'm looking for here? It'd be bad enough dealing with a spirit that lives here versus, hundreds of them
multiple.
that live just everywhere.
Oh, multiple in one spot.
Well, see, that's what's so really frustrating too, because it's if you could deal with maybe one type of thing, but then you're dealing with so many layers from what was at his house and realizing that, he was unsettled. There was other things there, spirits that were unsettled, that we had caught EVPs. We caught, like just different things from people going in there helping us out very briefly and what they experienced. And then innocently, for the first 4 or 5 months, we really didn't have any real poltergeist activity. So we were bringing things to my house and storing it. I had a pretty empty basement, and I figured, well, they're in Tupperware bins. That I'll just start stacking them, and I'll have to go through things later because I know this is what he had left me, and I needed to clear out. Okay, this is mine, but now I have to go deal with the things that have to be sent to people in Germany, some people out west. But it was like, did you know what you did? And then when I was questioned by one of the group, they said, where's the stuff now? I go, well, it's at my house. I said, I have some of it, stored in another facility. And she goes, bad idea. I said, well, I didn't know. I said, I didn't know spirits could be attached to objects. I mean, I've heard about it, but didn't really, I think, really 100% believe that could happen. But now I'm a true believer because we've experienced it. We know that there are things that are attached. And now we realize that not only what's been brought in here, but then it activated what was in my house that we were never really quite aware of, that it was anything really sinister or bad. It's a property that's been in existence for several hundred years, and it's just the course of people living and dying on the property, of course. But now I'm realizing that, wait a minute, there's been something with this house. Our house was built in 1947 on the actual foundation of the old farmhouse from the 1800s. So God knows, we're on the foundation, so that's why they're talking about could be your ground. That's actually the haunted ground. It's not my house, but it's just what we're on the property that's been, we're dealing with not just colonial times. We're dealing now with the Civil War because we have Civil War tunnels that are in the back of our property, and we're realizing now we're doing the investigation of saying, okay, you've got people that lived here 1800s, now you've got Civil War stuff, but then you've got stuff that you brought from your friends, and what might be ancient stuff, what was on this property before the white settlers. So it is like so multi-layered that, at some point you don't even know what avenue to take to even understand or study what exactly we're dealing with. So it's like you could throw your hat in the ring and just say, just take your pick over here at this point. So it's so crazy at all.
Now, what I've done, Anita, is I have found your link, and I believe it was Blog Talk, about your article, Spirit Attachments or Ghostly Parasites.
Okay,
And I've scrolled down, and I love the artwork in some of these things. But and there's a plug for your book too, A State of Horror. But I'm seeing here where you've taken pictures of is that the mirror in the bathroom?
Yes, that is. Yeah,
and
I'm glad
the
to see that.
handprints on it?
That's the handprints, yeah.
So I posted that, so if anybody is interested in seeing that, I can repost the link again.
Yeah, because that's my blog spot. I've been doing the blog for about a year, Hank, and then I've got over 18,000 page views in the past year. I've written about over 55 blogs on, and if people want to read other blogs, they can actually explore further because I have been presenting things as they've been happening since the publishing of the book. And, it goes into some things about the book, but there's a lot of different articles, not just personal, but also what I've explored in my own research and would have been some of my great interests and dealing with some of the paranormal or supernatural connections with that. And it's been the people just go crazy over some of these, some of the blogs. I get like 100 views a day on my blogs because there's so many and a variety. And I really appreciate you doing that, and making that available for your listeners tonight.
Well, we're doing that with not only that link, but your Facebook, and what else do I have?
Oh, that's what Christopher.
I also have, and your Google. Now, Roger and I both are big fans of Google. We both have communities there, so I think I sent an ad for you there. Have you had a history done of the property yet? Because, like you said, you've got Civil War tunnels.
Yes.
One area that I know, without mentioning names, the French were in an area and they were putting first people to death, and there's still some results of that.
Well, we are in the process of, luckily I've been connected with our historical society here in our township, and a friend of mine has been on the board. She's also on the board of a big cemetery that deals with a lot of the early settlers and people that are buried in the cemetery, and she's helping me to research some of the records. We do have some things we do know of because of maps that we've seen and knowing how far back the property actually goes back into the 1700s, and of course there's early Welsh settlers, Quaker settlers that came from this area outside of Philadelphia and settled and farmed this area. But now with the Civil War era, we're discovering that. Also, the actual history of some of the people who are the owners of the property. There's only been 2 families that we could see through the long history that were actually the owners before the gentleman who built the house here in 47, and that makes it a little easier because we're able to do long genealogy traces with court orphan records and some other things. And also my son has gotten, he's become a really full-blown psychic medium. He doesn't like to talk about, but he has people who come to him that are deceased in dreams, and they describe and tell him messages, and then we're able to look these things up, and they're all true. That it saved us so much time in an area we're exploring from World War II, possibly, and because of some of these names of these people that have come to him, it saved one of my researchers. He did not know what the connection would be until I gave him this name, and then he was able to explore a whole new area that he would never have done unless my son had this person come to him, and that's been, I don't know how he does it. He's sleeping at night and he has dead people come to him.
No, I don't ask for it; it just happens.
I know he's really a good kid about it. I'll tell you.
Our world, and welcome to it.
Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Just to throw this in there, not only your past Civil War activity stuff there, also, but you also have to take into consideration that, Native Americans may have fought and died there before that, and so you may also have Native American spirits there with you as well.
Well, Roger, that has been brought up too, because we are not far from an Indian, the Delaware, or they're the Lenape Indians. Their highway is not far from our township here, and actually some of the main routes outside of Philadelphia were some of their fur and trapping, highways that the Indians used, and the white settlers just followed the same trap lines and the same, roads to the villages. So that is a distinct possibility that this whole area. We found some, I think, obsidian chips. Chris, did you found some pieces of
two pieces of obsidian?
On the property. And that might be, flakes from, making arrowheads. So, we have everything that we find bits of pottery and pieces. We found a silver spoon. This was all from colonial times, but now we seem like, if we dig a little bit more, that, we might be able to find more of the link with the Native American, and that's a real distinct possibility. Definitely, Roger, that this is also something we're confronting, and it just keeps getting deeper and deeper, and just the more intriguing. It's just in some ways maybe, because of I love history and archaeology and things, that I'm able to present this, in a book form and through the blogs, that I just want to educate and help other people to know this could happen to you too, because it's happened to us.
Exactly. And we have a question. Well, it's kind of like a question in a little paragraph here from John. He says, I believe that there's a certain timeline to seeing these spirits, mainly around 150 years or so. People aren't really seeing spirits from older time periods. Does this apply to items believed to be haunted as well? I don't really think so, Johnny. I think if something is attached to an item, it's going to stay attached to that item unless, whoever knows how can release it from the item or whatever. I don't think they're just going to go away or fade out.
Roger?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I was going to wait till you finish. I just want to let you know. What experience? There are. I have a fossil that I use for when I do past life regressions, past life meditations.
Oh, wow.
And I have picked up on various timelines and events. So it's whatever. Now, let's put it this way. I'm not going to pick up anything from George Washington because he had apparently had no contact with my fossil. So the time is irrelevant, especially when you're dealing with the ethereal. And yes, you are right, Dita. If that answers any questions.
Well, I think that that's really a great point, because people, I think people want to see a beginning, middle, and end, and they want like an answer that will be something that they can live with, and they know, okay, well, that settles that. But this is the thing with the paranormal, anything dealing with different dimensions, we can make theories, we can hypothesize, and come up with our own rational answers. But until, I guess, our time is when we cross over to really understand all that the knowledge is there. I've become more and more from a traditional type of religious background to being more of a centralist, or a person who believes in all cultures have all rights to believe what they believe, because they're all trying to go to the same direction. We all want to go into a better life at some point. But I think what's so amazing to me is understanding how much is really left after this life, that there's sort of this limbo, or that these ghosts or people don't want to move on. They're comfortable where they are at. And, and if they've left things behind, there is direct connection with you. And if you happen to pick up something, like say a ring or something that might have belonged to one of these people, and they're still able to make a contact, or you pick up on something, with an attachment, I think that's really where this is still a raw thing, because time means nothing to them, in the afterlife. They think it might be still the old house that's here. I mean, I believe up in my upstairs bathroom that whatever has been through that bathroom still believes it's a different part of the house, and when they've gone into my son's room, it's like they feel that room was supposedly one of the attics was a schoolroom, and they're still thinking it's a room used for school, but it's my son's bedroom now. So there's like such a thing with the time, like you said, with the fossil, you pick up on things, and you don't know how far that fossil's traveled through other people's hands too, and through a timeline, of what that actual fossil is. But that's why with things that are my friends, when you have so many things jumbled together, you don't know what you're picking up that's exactly, is this real, or is this the really true impression I'm getting, or is this because it's mixed with this other thing next to it? It's not a pure, maybe linear line to a Mayan, Indian, or Greek or Roman, because you've got all these other things mixed together and, put together in boxes, and, even though he had some things separated. I don't know. It's all what, we're trying to feel comfortable with and explaining, how we can live with these things. And it's just such an open end to, we're going to be exploring this forever, because there's just so many avenues to study. And, I just scratched the surface. I mean, no pun intended. I just happened to scratch, I'm just trying to find out how I could even live with this stuff for, now that we've opened these things, like, okay, how do you live with this, and how do you just explain it to people, and understand it.
Right. CJ asked a question about residual, and I'm sure you're familiar with what a residual haunt is.
Yeah.
Have you experienced anything like that? It just plays over and over again, or?
Well, in my book, there's actually a chapter. It's called. Oh.
CJ asked a question about
Hello?
residual, and I'm sure you're
Hello?
Turn my radio off.
Have you experienced?
It's off.
Hi, Tim. I recognize you.
Hi.
So you guys want me to tell you my story?
Yes.
Well, I was 13 years old, and my dad had had a heart attack a couple of years earlier, and he went to church, and he had this cross on a necklace that he had blessed by the priest. It was supposed to be something that helped heal pain. And then I'd injured myself in wrestling. I was on the wrestling team. And my dad gave me the cross and said, well, hang this on your wall. It'll help protect you from, whatever is getting to you. So I hung it on my wall, and one night I'm in deep meditation, and for some reason I opened my eyes just in time to see the cross fly off the wall all the way across the room and hit the wall on the other side of the room.
Now, was that perpendicular to you, or was that along the same line as you were sleeping?
I wasn't sleeping. I was in meditation.
Question remains.
Yeah, it was parallel.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Did anything else happen besides the cross, or did you hear any voices, or see anything that would show that there was something there?
Yeah, I saw the shadow of a man that was not very tall, kind of real slim, not very tall fellow, and I recognized him from the pictures I've seen of my grandfather, my dad's dad, and I've never met the man, but I've seen pictures of him, and by golly, it was him in my room with me with a very reassuring smile on his face. And over the years since then, I've seen this man several times come to visit me in times of discomfort, pain, being depressed, that sort of thing.
He was making sure you knew he was there to help you.
Yeah, that's the message I got.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't see that as anything that was done maliciously. It was like to get your attention, and they knew how much that cross might have meant to you. So by throwing that, it was just the idea to get your attention, that he was there, I think.
Yeah, that's the feeling I got. That was the first time I've ever really seen an apparition just as plain as if he was really there. I'd seen kind of shadow effects and things like that in the past, but I'd never seen anybody come through as strong as he did like that night.
Mm-hmm.
Cool share, Tim. Cool share.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you very much.
I like that a lot. That's neat.
Yeah, that's really something.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Oh, you had asked about residual. I think it was Hank, or.
No, that was me.
Oh, that was Roger. Okay.
Later, Tim. Blessings.
Well, we did have the residual thing that remember there was a phone, phantom phone calls we called it, but his phone, he had one landline, didn't have a computer, and didn't have a fax machine, but I started getting his bills being sent to me so I could pay for the estate. I was the executor, and we started seeing a phone number appear from his call was being made from his house at 4:05 in the morning, and this call was being put to some number in upstate Pennsylvania, and we didn't know it was a private number, and we didn't know what it was, but we didn't notice it at first, and then I kept seeing this reoccurring. It would be a 1-minute phone call, but it was making a connection because the phone company was actually charging us a toll call, and we had taken long distance off his landline. We just had a basic, it was just domestic line because, we were trying to reduce the bills. So that went on for about 5 months until we had changed phone companies. The phone company he was using was not going to be in the area anymore, and then they just ceased to exist. that we didn't get the phone calls anymore showing up on the phone bill. But that was something that we had put aside. We didn't know, since we couldn't be able to go further with the phone number, but we've recently contacted this number now with Google and the internet. We were able to make another connection, and it turns out the number is an obsolete number that was being made to a relay station for what he had a security system in the house. But what was so strange is when I talked to these people, I said, well, was that part of the policy where, it would be his phone calling your relay station maybe to see if everything is working? And they go, no. They said, that's completely, that would never happen. She said, we make a call that no one knows once a month, that we come from our end to check on the landline to see if the line's not broken, make sure there's no static and it's clear, because we need to keep the signal going strong. So they just said to me, that's the strangest thing we've ever heard. I said, well, this went on for about 5 months, that there was a phone call being made first thing in the morning, like 4 o'clock in the morning, nobody's there, and to this number. And she said, well, that number hasn't been used in years. She said, I have no explanation, she said, to tell you. She said, and then the security company was out of business, the ones that we were using for the time. So we consider that residual, because it was just this loop pattern, that this phone call every week at the same time, and this went on for we would eat 4 weeks in each month, and you figure about 20 different times this happened with that. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay, hon. Mm-hmm.
Hello, everyone. You are listening to WCJV from Youngstown, New York. We'll be right back. I'm so used to doing this.
You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York.
Hey everyone, this is Christian Wallace, and I'll be tackling the taboo topics of news, politics, and entertainment Wednesdays at 9 Eastern Standard Time on Information Radio Show. Join me there.
We're back, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back, Anita, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I was just telling Anita there how if I was in the neighborhood, I'd love to drop in because I love the paranormal. That's just me. I've been yet to be scared out of a place. I'm not saying I never will. I've yet to be attached or followed. Not to say that I won't never, but I cross my eyes, legs, toes, fingers, everything.
Anything that could work.
Say a few Hail Marys and the St. Michael's prayer and everything, because I really do believe in protecting yourself. But
Definitely.
luckily, I've never yet had a spirit to follow me or attach to me or anything like that, or been thrown or pushed or shoved or anything like that. So, now we were in a house in Union City, Tennessee, and I have a video of it up on YouTube. There's a translucent spirit that you'll see on the DVR camera in the child's bedroom, which is where the claims were coming from.
Okay.
And I would think that, if there was something that bad in there, that it would have at least, acted up a little or something. But, I mean, we did get it on camera. It didn't do anything to anybody, but the claims was that they would wake the child up in the middle of the night, the child be screaming at 3 o'clock in the morning and, be scared to death. So, we did validate that there was something in that room.
And it seems like if it's maybe a young child, that seems in some ways, Roger, that maybe it stirs up with the emotions of the child, that, there's something that connects with a young person, there's, when there seems to be like young females or young children, and maybe they're going into a brand new house or they're moving into a home, it's like they seem to draw, the attention goes to the younger children, which sometimes they're scared and sometimes they just think they're just so innocent about. They think it's just another child for somebody to play with. So it's I think, Christopher, you had something like that with an imaginary friend when we've been in this house about 27 years, and I was a single parent. I was raising Chris, but when he was about 3 or 4, I don't know, Chris, you relate that you used to have where you said you're seeing an imaginary friend, or you used to be afraid some nights that he'd come running in my bedroom.
I don't remember too much, because it was going back quite a while with the imaginary friend. But I remember there was something being like kind of either attached or around me at that time, either portraying as a friend or just trying to maybe get on my good side type of thing. I'm not really too sure what it was trying to do, but it seemed like it didn't want to scare me, because I referred to it as like a bear, I believe it was.
Yeah, Jolly the bear.
So, I mean, whatever it was trying to do, it appeared to me where it wasn't trying to either harm or scare him. But like I said, I don't know if it was just trying to, it was attached. I don't know what it was, what the purpose of it really was. But then it seemed it went away after time. But now it's even gotten on a whole other side of talking to dead spirits in dreams and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's going from one extreme to another in that respect.
I have some really vivid dreams sometimes. Hank and I have talked about this a little bit, and sometimes I can just be talking to somebody and a picture will pop in my head, and I don't know where it comes from, and don't ask questions usually. We were talking about, and we were getting ready to do the show with Hank and his team a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about a photograph they had taken at, it was at a lake park. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head.
Spanaway Lake Park, right?
Yes. And I was looking at this picture, and a picture popped into my head of somebody being stretched between two trees and just left there like to hang, till I guess they passed or whatever.
Yeah.
And I could feel the fear, pain, And I knew he suffered. What I don't know what it was all about, but I knew that he suffered. And Chris saying that he has people come to him in his dreams. I've had dreams where I was walking through the woods, and it's kind of like a panning view scene, and the scene pans to the left, and it's like up this little hill, there's a dead tree stump. And just as the scene panned to the left and I started like up this little hill, the name Mary came out of the air. I mean, just as plain as the nose on your face. And when I got to this dead tree stump, that's where I woke up at. So, I don't know if that's telling me Mary's buried there or killed there or whatever,
Yeah,
So I can relate to.
Yeah, the impressions that you said, like, that they come, you don't try to rationalize them, but it might be something where, if you keep a diary, like Chris tries to keep a diary near the bed, that if he has a really vivid type of dream, he writes these things down. When it started, it was just a slip of paper that he would just write with a pen that goes, Mom, like, I don't know who this person is, but like I got this name, and then when we, you look this up, this person really existed, and what the, these historical connection. But what we're now trying to see if, what we've seen with the Shadow Man, if he is exactly somebody who lived here, the 1900s. We think we have, a name, and this person actually came to Chris. Tell him about the that he had the brim hat, Christopher, because then you saw him, I think, first, and then we saw it as the shadow person with the brim hat on the trailer.
Yeah, the first time he kind of revealed himself.
Yeah.
It was set in our backyard, where this man had been in overalls and kind of like a straw hat. So if you were to see him in the dark, he would just be, a shadow with kind of a brim hat. So he revealed himself to me with this really big, almost kind of a bear-sized black dog that he had chained to the fence at the time. And it was making some kind of a notion at the time. We had neighbors where these dogs wouldn't stop barking into our yard. And he had made some kind of remark to tell me to tell them to have the dog stop barking at his beauty. And when I told my mom this, we were kind of like laughing because they were barking almost at the air a lot of the times when they would go let out in the part of their backyard. And we're always kind of like looking over and like, what could they possibly be barking at? They're an enclosed yard with trees all around, and they really can't see much except in our yard. So that kind of validated almost that point to maybe they did see either this man working or possibly, because this dog was so big that they were seeing the dog, and it was kind of a menacing dog with kind of, something you see a dog maybe with rabies to where it's, salivating with red eyes. And this guy was just kind of just slowly working in the grass with a rake. I don't know if he was picking up something. And he had mentioned to me that he said he wasn't able to go anywhere. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? You can't go anywhere. Is this your home? I was trying to figure out what he was doing there. I said, well, we live here now. Did you live here? And he said back in the day that he had lived on the property. Was it early 1900s, Mom?
Yeah.
Like later on.
Yeah.
So it's like earlier in the time frame, and he revealed that he had done something horrible, and at the time we didn't know what he had done. But then I'll let my mom tell you if she wants to tell you what she found out.
Well,
on that part. But it was just it was just a very vivid dream that I could still see the sweat coming down off the man's beard, and just like seeing like the straw in his hat. It was just such a detailed, vivid dream. And then there was one other instance, but I'll let you tell them what you found out, and then I'll tell about the other.
Yeah, because then I was researching something else because Chris had a boy and a girl, these little children coming to him, and he had gotten these names. And I'm trying to go through the orphan court records, trying to see maybe in areas where, could they be buried somewhere, where if this is their name. And I did come across these two children with the names of James and Rebecca. And as I'm going through these records, I see a article, and it's dealing with the Stanton family, which this was part with the farm. And here's this man, this John Stanton, had murdered his wife, and it was in the early 1900s. And at the time, I didn't connect that this was the same man that had come to Christopher, but I had said to him, I said, I don't know, I think there's somebody that might have murdered his wife or something on the property. And then I put that aside and not realizing how much this shadow man was going to show up several more times. And then he came to you finally, and then he told you the truth, didn't he, Chris?
Yeah, there was a second time that he had come to me, and he actually, it wasn't him at first, it was just his dog had come into my room, and at this point it was still in a dream state, to where this dog, where I could still feel almost the dog's breath, hot breath on my face, and I'm just laying there like kind of almost paralyzed going like, what am I supposed to do with this? This thing's in my face, like, I don't know if at that point I didn't know if I was dreaming or awake. And then he kind of shooed the dog away, saying, he gets it, he gets the point or whatever, I don't know if he was trying to intimidate me or scare me or whatever. And he comes over to me and he's like, oh, I know you found out some stuff about me. And then I was like, I'm just thinking to myself, like, what are they, like just following us around? And he leans over to me and says, that you guys found out about me, I'm able to move on, but apparently he wasn't going to a nice place at this point. And he said something about, he said he was glad that he had done it, or that she deserved it or something. And it was just a horrible dream where this man was just, he seemed almost like excited that we had found out about him, and he was able to leave here and go on to somewhere else. So I don't know what the whole point of that was, but the most interesting part about that whole dream was when I finally woke up and realized that it was a dream. I actually woke up with a handful of this black fur. And I was like, what is this? It was like, it almost felt like I had grabbed onto a black shag carpet and kind of ripped it out of the carpet. And it was all these fibers, and these hairs were in my hand, and I was just like, okay, like, was that, was that from that dog, or was just, was there something that, that I had touched maybe during the night, was something on my cover of my bed, but I couldn't figure out what it was, because I didn't have anything black in my room that would have produced this type of fur and or hair. So that was actually one of the most frightening times when I woke up and saw that. Because I've seen a couple of like movies where people say they wake up and they have like kind of like dream stuff where they have marks on them, either scratches or kind of unexplained marks or whatever. But this is the first time where I actually almost pulled something out of my dream, and that was I haven't had that happen again. But I was hoping that would never. Something like that wouldn't happen again, but I was quite scared at that point, and I don't know if what happened to those fibers, if we were able to save those or not, but if you still had them or if they disappeared or what, but that was just...
Well, I don't know. We had put them in some kind of a plastic bag, but I don't even know if they still... It seems like this... Remember the mist on your shirt? Chris had a mist one time. He had a black T-shirt on it with a gray... It looked like somebody had water vapor on the back of his shirt. And when I went to go wipe it, you could actually see where my handprints were, where I wiped it, because you could see the rest of his dark shirt and this gray mist. It just literally just disappeared in front of our eyes, but it was like...
it was almost like an ectoplasm kind of residue. It was really weird.
And I didn't even think I thought we were hallucinating it, but then I talked to our medium friend, and she said she's had the same thing happen that has like layered on her shirt, and then it just kind of disappears. And I said, well, how's anybody ever going to believe this kind of thing? It's like, you see something, then it just disappears. I don't know. I don't know. It's
something also to strange that whole thing. Just as I was finishing telling that story, the light just blew in the living room.
What?
So if you maybe they didn't want me to tell that story on live, but there you have it.
The bulb just blew in
the bulb just blew in the living room.
Oh my gosh!
I'm in pitch black darkness now. That's just great.
Wow!
Time to break out the candles and flashlights. Chris,
yeah, right? Exactly.
I am here to tell you, yes, you are exhibiting a lot of psychic medium abilities. You're not letting someone literally take over your body like a normal medium would. You're basically seeing and hearing and conversing with these, but they're not taking over your body. I really wish another member of my team who normally listens in, Toby. He is my psychic medium for my team up here.
Oh, okay.
And you are getting these messages that are proving to be extremely helpful for you and your mother.
Oh yeah, they're a validation. You can't believe with just they kind of fill in the gaps of what's going on, and when we ask questions, it's kind of a validation where later on you say, oh, well, that's the piece of that puzzle that kind of fits in that now, and then especially that I'm able to go online to either Google or Wikipedia to look this stuff up, and validates even more through dreams. It's just incredible. It almost gives you goosebumps because you don't know if you're out of your own mind or if you're crazy or whatever the case may be, but it's a validation to yourself that, like, okay, I saw this, I wrote it down, let me see if anything relates to this, and it's almost like you find it word for word that you can look it up online. It's incredible.
No, you are not crazy.
I was wondering where that came from.
I used to think the same thing when I first started having this stuff going on and everything. I thought, man, I'm one of these loonies, and they're going to come after me with the white coats with the banded sleeves, you know. But no, it's and this, I'm going to throw this out there because I've noticed this. And of course, how old are you?
I'm 30.
Okay, well, I've noticed that more of the older, and I'm quoting myself here, I'm not calling Hank old even though he looks like Santa Claus, but more of the older generation is starting to wake up now, and things like this are becoming more, what's the word I'm looking for? More
like a paradigm, like it's become part of our culture at some point.
Exactly. And I kind of believe that this is meant to be. This is what's supposed to happen. Maybe we're at that age now. You know, in the world's history, not ours, but we're at that age now where this is starting to happen more.
If you look at, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if you look at the age aspect, we're not children anymore. We're not being told, oh, that's just your imagination, or you're not supposed to think that way. We're basically adults now, except for some of us. We're basically adults, and we're forming our own ideas. And those of us that are, how shall I say this, brave enough to walk our own path, we will find more and more of our latent talents. If that makes sense.
It does.
Definitely.
So it follows what you're saying, Roger.
Yeah. I think, Christopher might have always had this latent ability, but I think the trauma that we experienced at my friend's house was so, such an extreme, such a long-term being involved with paranormal things happening to you almost on a daily basis when we were there. I mean, I said, I don't know of any other thing I've ever read, except for some people have lived maybe in a haunted house for a long period of time, but to have, poltergeist activity of the nature that we experience, day in and day out, and for hours at a time. And then, then Chris, he was, not only like thrown to the ground, but he felt like he would get nauseated. He would get attacked in his stomach, that he would get sick and he'd have to leave, the basement and go upstairs for fresh air. And so I think, it's brought everything to the surface. And I tell him, I said, I don't think this is a curse for you, Chris. I mean, you might think it is, but there's a reason that this happened, because you are of the intelligence and the personality that you're able to bring this gift, and maybe it's going to be used for the benefit, of mankind or for culture reasons for people to understand, what we're trying to do. And as I said, if you had told us 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we would be on a radio show talking about the paranormal. I mean, it was the furthest thing from our minds, that, we would even be thinking of, even though we've always enjoyed, monster movies. And Christopher is a wonderful model builder. He does miniature model building, and he works with, all the movie references, and, Ghostbusters, and he's done, he does Egyptian armies, but it's doing the Spawn army. I mean, he works with these things for the last 17 years with just in-depth, really great detail. And so his knowledge of, different types of creatures and things that, he's comfortable with that. But this is this is so different that he goes, Mom, this is all fantasy stuff I'm painting. Now I'm really it feels like fantasy is coming after me, that, this is actually real now. And, maybe we've just been, maybe we're kind of geared to liking this kind of thing, as far as it's not that foreign to us, liking, watching, the haunted movies or whatever, but we felt comfortable. But I don't know. I mean, because we're not running away from this. We are standing firm in our belief and know what we saw and what we experienced, and want other people to know that you're not crazy, you're not hallucinating, unless you've been maybe taking some magic mushrooms, that you're not telling anybody about,
Not at all.
No, but it's the idea is we are speaking for, there's so many people who have emailed me, and, by being the opportunity on your radio show tonight, but also because of what, I'm trying to do, people will email me to say, thank you for being brave to say this. And I'm not trying to get any kind of gold stars up in heaven or anything. It's just I want to relate my story and tell people that this really can happen to you, and you could be just going about your normal life, and all of a sudden it can change overnight. And that's what happened with us. So it's I tell people, don't dismiss your intuition. If you feel like you have a gut reaction that you really saw something, then you probably did, and don't let anybody else try to dismiss what you feel is what you within yourself, and try to tell you that that's not real, or to make it, make you misjudge your own type of character and personality, and say, wait a minute, I don't usually, act this way. Why would I see this? I know this is something that was extraordinary that happened. So that's why, because I had people in my own family very skeptical, and I say to them, you might not believe in the paranormal, but can you just believe in me, that I'm not a person who makes up stories. I'm not a person who lies. I mean, I'm an honest person all my life. So why would you think I'd make this stuff up? I said, I can't write fiction. I couldn't even write this kind of fiction if I even wanted to. I said, this is honest, true stuff that we kept a diary, every day, and we captured on video and recorded. So, once I wrote my book, which my family did not know for several years until this was getting published, and I got my agent, I said, guess what, guys? I wrote a book. And maybe now you'll read it and you'll understand what I went through. So it was that was shocking to them. Wait a minute, you wrote a book? Yeah, and I got an agent too. So, top that. It's can you people understand now I'm really mean business about this? This is not a joke. This is not just something that just happened one time. So, yeah, there's many, many reasons. I want other people to know that they're valid in their beliefs and what they're experiencing it, and I just tell them to be brave, but, if you don't want to come forward and talk about, then I'll talk about for you. I'll do it for you. So,
I was going to say that what I feel is going on with Chris, and, I'm far from claiming to be perfect with this stuff, but I kind of get the idea that they're coming to him in these dreams because it's part of his calling to help them find peace.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They know who he is. He may not know who they are, but they do know who he is, and they know that he is capable of helping them. So they're going to come to him. And I've got a son-in-law who kind of has some of the same stuff. They will come to him because they know that, he can see them.
Yeah.
Hear them. And they'll come to him. And the way he explained it to me, and so, I hope you don't deal with this. You may have, but anyway, he said sometimes they will come to him and show him how they died, and sometimes it's horrific. you know, and he just has to suck it up, you know, so to speak.
Yeah, that Chris has experienced that.
Okay, that's what I'm getting is that that they're looking to him for release, for help, and they're going to continue to come to him because, like I said, they know who he is.
Yeah, well, that's almost like what. Unfortunately, Christopher had a good friend who overdosed on drugs on Easter day, and we came with that the next day. Chris, he came to you that.
Yeah, it was a day or two, maybe afterward.
Yeah, that it was really a sad. Oh my gosh! But he talked to you and said, you know, how wrong he was. You know that. You know, I mean, maybe you should just tell him just a little, if you just want to share just a little bit.
Yeah, it was just a thing that, you know, he had come to me and just said that, you know, he didn't realize what he was doing at the time, and I don't think, you know, you really know what you're doing at the time when you're sick like that, you know, that you know who you're really affecting and who you're really hurting. So he just came by as kind of a validation to, you know, to let everybody know that he was okay, and, you know, that he was just sorry for, you know, pretty much putting his family through what he put them through. So it was a bittersweet kind of thing, because I had lost touch with him a little bit over the time after with high school, but you know, it was just, you know, I was glad to see that, you know, that he kind of confided in me to come by and say that he was okay. So I felt kind of blessed in that way.
Well, like I said, you're going to see a lot of this. I just have this feeling that, you know, this is the beginning and that it's going to continue. More or less, I'm going to say it's going to be with you for the rest of your life. I could be wrong, but I kind of feel like you're always going to be the one that they're going to look to.
Yeah.
No, you're not wrong, Roger.
Okay, that's kind of what I'm feeling, so I'm just saying what I feel, but, you know,
I agree with you.
You'll have this the rest of your life. They're going to come to you, and if you do see the aftermath of, like, accidents and stuff like that, you just have to keep in mind, you know, that you're helping them to get released from this. And some of them, and this is just something that I kind of feel happens, like with the residuals. They will relive these accidents over and over, and the pain and the suffering and the hurt and the, you know, they come to you to be released from that.
Okay.
So
that
you know,
does make sense. You know, for some others, yeah, Chris, that does make sense.
Oh, well, sure it does.
Yeah. It's I mean, the type of people who have come and what, you know, the circumstances were, and as you said too, Roger, like, you know, there is meanings behind certain things. Not only they have to be really literal, but there could be where, as Chris said, they fill in a piece of the puzzle that we're kind of wondering, where is this going to connect, and then, you know, it seems to solve the puzzle a little bit, you know, and then we can kind of take it from there and research more, because I'll tell you, we have not, the Shadow Man, we have not seen him since last year when we had, you know, our man come, he cleansed the place, and he said a lot of the surface spirits that were kind of just coming through like a bus stop. You know, they were coming through here and then leaving, but some were staying for a while and then they were moving on. But it's like he cleared a lot of this darker and heavier atmosphere. But the warning was that if things don't get resolved from what the natural part was say the ground, or what exactly, you know, this thing we need to kind of correct, you know, then it would be attracting, you know, other spirits coming through, and it's never going to be fully resolved. But I think the Spirit Man did move on, you know, because he wanted to be validated, to know that he was here and confess to what he had done. And even with you had seen some slaves, Chris, in our backyard, that you saw the images, and they said they were released and they were going home. You said, you know, that was pretty interesting. You know, that seemed like whatever was being released, you know, a good portion of them, you know, were able to move on. But we have been told, you know, there's a lot here, you know, not just what maybe comes through in the house at different times. But yes, a few stay. Some have been here for maybe several hundred years. But also we get maybe just temporary. We'll just get maybe a fragrance, tobacco sometimes. Maybe we feel a cold rush going through, and it just seems like they know that we're open, and not that we don't want to get, we're not being inhabited by anything, but it's like they know that we accept or understand what they are, and don't dismiss it. So I would think that would be pretty terrible to have someone not validate, to say, hey, I really exist, but you can't hear me, and then you're saying, well, hey, we think we know you might be coming through, so we're saying, please move on, or go to the light, or we validate that there's some kind of a presence here. So maybe that's part of it too. I don't know.
What I'm hearing, okay, and from my learned experience, a residual haunting is what I'm hearing, is basically, if you will, a recording in time, like a record that has a very fine, the old vinyls. God, I'm dating myself. The that when it skips, it just constantly plays that one part, and that's so. What, if I may, Chris is doing is helping the intelligent hauntings, or the intelligent spirits, ghosts. Yeah, there's contention on that point too, but nevertheless, so. Chris, all I can do is A, cheer you on, B, I know someone who might be able to help you further with that, if you're interested in that.
Yeah, it's always interesting to see what's going on with it,
Like I said, my psychic medium, Toby, would be able to and be more than willing to help you as time would allow. And you can reach me. I'm not trying to make any plugs here, but you can reach me on my Facebook, or you can reach me through Roger's. We both have Google community accounts. You can always reach us through there.
Okay.
And then I can put you in contact with him.
Yeah, it would be good for him to talk to someone who, has much more experience and knowledge, just so Chris knows whatever he's experiencing, like he could take as much from that as possible, and knowledge is power. The more that then you don't have to be afraid, or what to deal with. Luckily, Chris has a very strong, self-confident spirit within him that, he doesn't want to be taken over by anything. He doesn't have these addictions or something that he would be something that, I'm very liable to weaken or have this take over. But, he's a strong individual. He knows who he is. And, I'm grateful for that, because what we've been through, it could have been easily where you could have been possessed and have just such really long-term effects that could have been devastating, to both of us. But just thank God, that he's, the type of person he is. And we used to laugh things off in a way using the humor, and that would kind of set, I think, these entities on their ears, because they say, wait a minute, we can't seem to scare them. They're kind of joking around and saying, hey, well, what are you doing? We're just trying to do our job here. And, we didn't find that we needed to be, terrified all the time. But at the same point, then they just got where, they wanted us to be frightened, and I guess they got angry that boy, it's going to take a lot for us to get these people out of this house, or to get them, because I said, I'm not leaving. This is my home, and I've put too much time and sweat equity, and if there's anything here that doesn't belong here, they're supposed to move on, because I'm certainly not leaving. They've had their time, but that sounds good, Hank. If you could do that for Chris, because he certainly, I think, would be great, for him to do that.
Now, here's another thought. You have been making changes since you've taken over the house and preparing it for either sale or for moving into it, right?
Well, the house was sold about four. It was sold after we cleared it out, and I don't have any parts of the house anymore. It was gutted and was resold, and that's from what I hear, there's people living there that made improvements, and I haven't heard anything from the neighbor who lived in the back. I talked to her after the holidays, and she said, well, they seem to be happy there, but she had the feeling that if my friend knew what they had done with the house, she says, I don't think he'd be real happy, how they changed it around. And I said, well, you really can't say anything. I mean, these are new people, and he's gone. And, she just thought that they made so many changes, he wouldn't have liked it. But see, at my house now, we did a few little changes, and whatever's been here didn't seem to like when I had new siding on my house.
That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, they didn't like that. They don't like when we move things in the basement. Like, we're going to have to move and sell a lot of this stuff. Like, I was waiting to get some free time, and after the book was done, that's been. I just lost my mom last September. I took care of my parents for 6 years, both of them. They were very ill, and it was back and forth taking care of them and everybody else except what we needed to take care of here. And now we are zeroing in on the objects and trying to get this cleared out, and make the house, where we feel this is our own, and nobody has to be inhabiting it with us, But when we've made little changes, they don't like it. They were throwing the tools out of the guys' belts when they were putting the new siding. They were making the garage door go up and down. They would make things disappear and reappear. So finally, one of the contractors, after about 2 weeks of this, he goes, you want to tell me what's going on around here? I go, well, I was waiting for you to be finished, so now I could tell you. I think my house might be a little bit haunted. So he says, well, why did you say so? He said, we've worked on old houses before. So he wasn't really that surprised. But he said, at least I know I'm not crazy, that I thought I was seeing things disappear in front of me, and then they'd be right back where, wait a minute, I didn't see that before. So yeah, I know what you're saying. When you say that, it's like they just like things to be where they are, and when we move things in the basement, which we don't do too frequently, they get a bit upset. They start throwing things around, like I don't want you moving this. I don't want, well, I'm sorry, I've got to clean this place up. I'm sorry. I mean, people would put me in a padded cell if they see me sometimes talking to them, just the air, and I'm saying to them, please, I want to sleep tonight. Please don't go sliding down the banister. Don't go running through the walls. I mean, I hear your little pitter-patter of feet racing through the house. We have a bunch of little ghost kids that come through here once in a while, and, they don't mean any harm. They just don't recognize.
No, they just don't know any better.
They don't know any better, and I feel bad for them. That like they see that. Why don't you go to your parents, or why don't you find your way? And my son has said, well, some have moved on, but some new ones have come in, because they find refuge here, and I go, well, that's great, like I don't have to be raising ghost children at this point. I raised my son. I don't want to raise the little ghost children, but I don't want them to feel. I mean, we say blessings to them. We want them to be sent on their way. And, something I know in my house in the basement is kind of an anchor, and they're drawn to it, and it's causing them that they almost are stuck here. So that's why if we can get that, we're hoping to do this full blown, get this all done, in a couple weeks, get this basement cleared up, and saying, go on your way. I don't need to have you here. We don't need this. So we're going, we're going to do all our power, do our part, with the right person and the right, prayers and everything else we need to do. He's a pretty powerful guy, and we want him to, he's become a great friend. He goes all around the country helping people, delivering them from these types of inhabitations and entities that don't belong. So we're hoping, that he's going to be able to help us. So, we're keeping fingers and toes and everything crossed, as Roger said before you go into a place, cross everything that you can cross, and say the prayers and wish the best, and so, because it's been a long time, long journey.
Exactly. I wanted to just say this: when you're talking about cleaning out your basement, you've got all the artifacts, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And were you talking about selling those off? And
see, this is the thing. Some of them I have to have maybe a museum take a look at them. Some other things, some people have just been chafing at the bit as they say, are you going to sell any of the things? We'd love to own a piece of the estate of horror. I go, yeah, you might get more than you bargained for. So I think I'm going to have to put
That was my point.
I'm going to have a certificate. I have my agent who's an attorney. She says, I'm going to make up where they're going to have to sign a release before they buy these things.
That was my point I was getting at.
Yeah, definitely, because we do not want to be responsible. If you want to buy it, it's fine. We're glad that you want this so bad. A piece of this, or, I have costume jewelry that belonged to his mother, and, she haunted the house. But it was more of a visitation. And then we've got things that are dealing with World War II and some of the related things there, which are completely, incredible. We never had an idea that was going to take us in a journey in that direction, but apparently that's some of the evil and dark force that's been inhabiting this stuff all along because of its connection to World War II and Nazi Germany, and it's just goes into all of these other directions. But we're trying to be prepared and study and get to know what we need to do before we sell these things. And my agent, as I said, she's an attorney, and she is really watching my back. She's making sure that if we're going to do anything of that type with an auctioneer, that we've got to get everybody to know what you're getting yourself into if you're going to buy any of this stuff. So, because I'm not going to be responsible.
Right.
It's not everything. A lot of the things are just, as I said, could be everyday common objects. He collected pewter, and I don't get anything from any of this, pewter that he collected, but it's basically, the artifacts, things that from native cultures, that we'd be concerned with.
Johnny says, what is the most outstanding piece of evidence you've come across from these investigators? I guess he's assuming the ones that were there before.
Oh, you mean some of the things that maybe we verified, Roger, like something that was really that hit us hard with the evidence, I guess. Well, actually hearing my friend's voice, we collected some EVPs, and I recognized my friend's voice, and but also he spoke through a medium near the end when we were trying to get him crossed over, and the inflections and the way he spoke, I knew it was my friend, and that was validation to me to know that he's been here this whole time, and he has unfinished business, and he spoke through this gentleman, and it was once in a lifetime to ever be connected with something that powerful and emotional. Hear it physically, hearing somebody speak that sounds like him, and telling him, he's telling you how sorry he is that he left me in such a position, and apologizing, didn't think he was going to die. He died of a sudden heart attack, so he didn't even know. That 1 minute he's he's not feeling well, and the next minute, it's like 911's called, and he dies, in the hospital. And when I got, by the time they called me, and I was there to go there to see if he was going to have like an operation, they took me downstairs, and I knew by the looks on the doctor's faces, I go, oh, wait a minute, this does not look good. And they just said, no, we're sorry, there's nothing we could do. He had such a massive heart attack that they could do nothing for him. And he was 55, the guy. He was in great shape, had been, with a personal trainer and all that, but, doesn't belie the fact that he had coronary artery disease that was almost inherited in his family, and he just blew his heart out. He had a blocked artery that he had asthma, and he was taking a medication, and that might have helped the symptoms, and did not know he had a silent heart attack. And then by the time he has this other one, they said, he just blew a hole in his heart. It was so violent, the heart attack, he didn't even know what hit him. And it's like, geez, like, oh my gosh, like that's like, I never expected that. Yeah, that would happen to him, because I would think it would have been an asthma attack that could have done him in, because he had that, for many years. But yeah, you just never know. But it's, oh wow, yeah. It's
he was asking about, I think, some of the paranormal investigators that had came to the house. What was the best piece of evidence that you got from them?
Well, let's see. Well, they did collect some EVPs, and it did verify about a child who we thought was here, and there was a voice that said the boy first. They asked who was the longest who had been in the property at the house, and they said the boy first, and did not know what that meant until later that this boy came to Christopher in a dream and told him exactly who he was, and he was like 8 years old, and that was verified later when our psychic medium came again. She said, oh yeah, she said this 8-year-old boy. They verified certain other things. Let me say, they actually captured some. Well, actually, they caught some orbs that were actually going actually in the paranormal people. They were like right over them, and then almost through them we could see. And as the one man is saying, I think about there's like 3 and 2 of spirits here. And as soon as he said that, the orbs were like right through him, and that was almost like on cue that they heard him and that they showed up. And that when they captured that and the EVPs and just their experience with the one girl feeling like she was going to get choked. She was downstairs and this person said to her, I don't want you talking about me or asking me any more questions. And she was so scared. And the images that he flooded her mind were so horrific that she had a hard time actually writing this down in her report that she gave me later. And I was reading it. She goes, I didn't even want to give this to you because you have to live there. Do you understand what this guy was like sending me, these images or this being? And I go, wow. No wonder you didn't want to tell me right away. It was pretty horrific. Just of murder and going after women and children. And it was just horrible. She said it was something she had never experienced with such an intensity of such hatred, against females and things. It was just crazy.
It is crazy. And you have to, you don't never know when you go in a place. Hank both knows what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
When you go into a place for the first time, and you may have like a person will give you certain claims. Well, this is happening here and this is happening there. It's the things that they don't warn you about that are the ones, you don't ever know what you're going to run into when you go in there. If it is a serious, a person, and most of the time, if a person was dark in life, they're dark in death.
Yes.
So if they were angry, evil, serial killers in life, they're going to be angry, ill, want to be serial killers in the afterlife.
Yeah. People think that you get all warm and fuzzy when you cross over, Roger. But you're carrying the same personality and burdens and unfinished business into the next life. It seems that
exactly.
The more that I've been studying on this, and this is just more validated. What we've been hearing from other people who have that have presented these things to us and trying to make sense of it. And it's all like it's been like just a whole series of discovery for us to understand how many aspects we have faced. I mean, between actually seeing things like right in front of your eyes. Just like there was a hanky that my friend's mother collected beautiful hankies and had them in her coat pocket. But we were putting some hankies on a shelf, and then you see these hankies just go zoom right in front of your eyes and go up in the rafter in the ceiling. It's like, wait a minute, like, why did that hanky just fly up into the ceiling? It's like, I mean, is it just supposed to be funny, or they're saying, hey, I'm here and watch this, what I can do? I mean, I think the most, just to see
I got to
things
change
that,
my name.
Hanky.
I'm sorry.
Well,
I should say,
Hanky,
well,
if you go flying up in the air to the rafters and everything, I'm leaving. So.
Oh, that's so funny. I didn't realize how. I didn't realize how. but this is what these little cloth pieces. They just flew up.
See, we do have a sense of humor on this show.
That's okay. That's okay. I am being a perfect angel.
Oh, well, you are.
Hey, kind of dodged left for that lightning bolt there, Hank.
Yeah.
No, but it was pretty. I mean, the strangest stuff would just. I mean, as I said, it was a mixture of funny things and things that were like, just you just can't believe your eyes. Like, what in the world? Did I just come into like a fun house? Or I mean, some days would be, not really terrifying at all. It would just be, annoying. It's like, okay, would you please leave us alone? We're trying to get our work done. And my poor son, Christopher, did you put that stuff? Didn't you pack that in the box? Mom, I put that angel, and talk about angel, I put that in that box a while ago. Well, guess what? She's out again. She's over here. I said, I'm doing the same thing 3 times. I keep packing the same thing in the box. It's like, get this out of here. So they keep taking things out of the boxes and move them back on the shelf. And it's like, oh, my gosh, we'll never get done if you keep doing this. So, crazy
Well, they didn't
stuff.
want you to pack their stuff.
Yeah, because it meant that was the final, then that would be the final thing that, they're finally going to be out of there. This is
Right.
no longer their house. And that's what we finally guess. Yeah, well, you are beating it into our heads over here. Yes, we understand you don't like that we're moving your stuff, but we have no choice. This is what we're supposed to be doing. And the estate says, we have to sell the house, and it's going to go to charity. And we had the charities breathing down our necks, like, when you selling the house, we want our, they wanted the money. And I thought, what, could you wait? We're trying to get this all settled. I was just amazed at some of the charity institutes. They were really coming, they kept bothering us, like, is this going to be settled? And when do we get our money? And I go, you know what, my friend, if you knew the way you were, maybe you wouldn't have left you this money, that you're just seem to be so mercenary at this point. But, we can only do what we can do, at the time. I said, you can have no idea the condition of the house.
Anita, you got some bad garbling coming in there on you.
Oh, really?
She was coming good for me. I was hearing her well.
Maybe it's me, man.
Anyway,
Well,
before we part,
Mm-hmm.
the final thought that comes to me is, you could have always left them with the parting gifts.
What was that bit?
The hankies.
The hankies.
Yeah, the hankies. and the angel that kept one.
Yeah, we should have left the angel. Well, I think we did. There was a leprechaun mask that was so creepy looking. We left that down the basement. We wouldn't take that leprechaun mask that my friend had in his costume collection. We left that down. So, but
without a ton of sage.
And if you leave today, we have this amazing parting gift for you.
Oh my gosh! My son said
we promise we will not throw you through a window if you leave now.
Well, they asked us to go back. We saw the place after they fixed it all up and couldn't believe the amazing job they did. But the last thing my son said, I'm just glad I don't have to live here. So we left. It looked really beautiful, but we're glad we're not living here. So what you did. Oh, jeez.
This has been fun.
Oh,
it's
you
hard
guys
to believe
been great.
we've been here 2 hours. It's really
Oh,
unbelievable.
my
Wow,
God.
went by it. I didn't even realize.
Wow.
Yeah, see?
Wow.
Time's fun when you're having flies.
Yes, it is.
Fine hankies.
And hankies floating up to the ceiling
He's left in the ceiling.
with white beards.
Oh, you guys have been great, though. We appreciate so much, too. Cindy and Roger and Hank, thank you so much for having us on tonight. We just had a blast. It was
It's
great.
been fun having you here, really.
Exactly. You guys have been awesome.
Now, before we part, when is the next book coming?
Well, we're trying. As we were speaking, my agent is reading the first 12 chapters that I got to her, and I'm trying to get more of the manuscript done. We're trying to get this done by the end of the year because we're actually going to be on a TV episode in November for the Discovery Channel for The Haunting, and we taped last month the interviews, and our episode will air in November. So we would love to be able to have the sequel out, when that happens. But we're just trying. We're trying to get this done. So everybody keeps asking me. I just read the first book. Now when's the second one coming out? And it's just I'm so busy with trying to get everything done, and but we've got a great amount of different things that I think people are going to be really interested in. So
Okay, real quick, everybody in the chat room wanted to send out a shout to y'all and tell you thanks. They appreciate it. It was a really great show. Everybody enjoyed it a lot.
thank you.
Johnny, Dita, Tim, and Cheryl.
Oh, Cheryl's gone.
Okay, well, Cheryl
We
was
lost
there.
Cheryl a little while
Okay, we
back.
got Johnny,
Don't
Dita,
forget Johnny.
and Tim.
Don't forget Johnny.
I just said Johnny.
Oh, okay.
All right, Hanky, you need to put that thing in your ears.
He's not going to live this down.
No, he's not. He's going to hate me tomorrow.
Yeah,
What do you mean tomorrow?
But if thank you for putting the different links up there, Roger and Hank and Cindy, what you're doing, and if you just go on my website, www.astateofhorror.com, it has the links where they can, if they want to buy the book, it's up on Kindle and Amazon, and it's up also through the BarnesandNoble.com. It's up on their site. And, so we're, in fact, Barnes & Noble said that, if anybody came into their bricks and mortar store and asked for it specially, they're going to order it for them also. So I thought that was really nice of them that they're also they're allowing that too. So because they have 700 stores, and they said, special order through our 700 stores. And so we've been doing really good. The book's been very hot, and we're just so grateful for people like you that are helping to spread the word.
Well, that's awesome. We got to wind this thing down, y'all. Really do appreciate you guys coming on, and I loved it. It was a great show.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to be back here next Monday night, and if I'm not mistaken, we have Trip Paranormal coming on. So
Trip Paranormal, yes.
Everybody be sure to be here, or as they say, be there or be square. And if you can't be normal,
be paranormal.
Paranormal.
We'll see y'all next week, everybody.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Brightest blessings.
You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York.